Somewhere in the Gulf, mounted on the deck of a single American destroyer, there's a weapon that doesn't fire bullets, doesn't fire missiles, and doesn't make a sound. It's a laser. And if it works the way the Navy says it does, it quietly attacks one of the most expensive problems the United States has faced in this entire war with Iran. Not a problem of firepower, but a problem of math. This is the story of that laser, the broken economics it was built to fix, and why the numbers behind this weapon might end up mattering more than the weapon itself. Let's start with the problem, because you can't understand why this laser matters until you understand exactly how badly Iran's drone strategy has worked against the United States. Since the war between the United States, Israel, and Iran erupted at the end of February 2026, Iran has leaned heavily on cheap, mass-produced attack drones as one of its primary weapons against American forces, Israeli territory, and shipping across the Gulf. The drone doing most of the damage is the Shahed 136, a Tehran-designed, Iranian-built kamikaze drone that reportedly costs somewhere between roughly $20,000 and $50,000 to build. That is genuinely cheap for a weapon that can carry an explosive payload hundreds of miles. Here's where the real problem shows up. And it isn't really about how dangerous the drone is. It's about what it costs the United States just to knock one out of the sky. According to reporting from Euronews, when the U.S. military intercepts a Shahed using a Patriot interceptor missile, that single interception runs somewhere between $3 and $4 million. If American forces instead use a THAAD interceptor, the cost jumps to roughly $10 million per shot. Sit with those numbers for a second. Iran spends as little as $20,000 to build a drone. The United States can spend up to $10 million to shoot it down. That's not just an expensive war. That's a broken equation, one where the side spending exponentially more money is still the one bleeding resources faster with every single exchange. And this wasn't some abstract worry cooked up by defense economists in Washington. It showed up directly in the war's price tag almost immediately. According to that same Euronews report, just 3 weeks into the conflict, a U.S. President's administration official confirmed the war had already cost the United States $12 billion, working out to just under $1 billion a day. Iran's entire annual defense budget for 2025, meanwhile, was estimated at roughly $23 billion total, a fraction of America's $900 billion military budget. Even with that massive spending advantage, the specific cost of shooting down cheap Iranian drones with expensive American missiles was creating exactly the kind of unsustainable financial bleed no military wants to be stuck fighting for months on end. So the United States needed a different kind of answer. Something that could kill a $20,000 drone without spending millions of dollars every time. That's exactly where this laser comes into the story. It's called Helios, which stands for High Energy Laser with Integrated Optical Dazzler and Surveillance, a name deliberately chosen to reference the Greek god of the sun. Helios is a directed energy weapon built by Lockheed Martin, rated at around 60 kilowatts, with the company saying the underlying architecture can scale up toward 120 kilowatts. It's designed to intercept drones, small boats, and other low-altitude threats using a focused, invisible beam of energy. And according to Lockheed Martin, it also doubles as a surveillance and targeting sensor, capable of identifying and tracking targets out to around 8 kilometers using thermal and night vision imaging. It works two ways. At a lower power setting, it can dazzle a target, confusing the drone's onboard guidance system badly enough that the aircraft loses control and goes down on its own. At a higher setting, it can destroy the target outright, overheating its structure or electronics until the drone simply stops functioning mid-flight. Here's the part that makes this weapon genuinely fascinating from a financial standpoint, and it's the real reason it's generated so much attention during this war. Unlike a Patriot or THAAD interceptor, a single-use missile that's fired once and gone forever, a laser weapon like Helios basically just needs electrical power to fire. Defense analysts covering directed energy weapons in general have described the cost of a single shot in terms of just a few dollars of electricity and cooling compared to millions of dollars per missile. If that holds up under real combat conditions, it doesn't just save money. It flips the entire economic logic of fighting a drone war, turning a lopsided, unsustainable exchange into something a defender can actually afford to keep doing, shot after shot, for as long as it takes. Now let's talk about where this weapon actually sits and how it got there. Helios isn't brand new. Lockheed Martin won the contract to build it back. That distinction matters. We know the weapon is there. We know it works under controlled testing. We have reporting suggesting it's been used in real combat. But we don't have an official, verified combat record telling us precisely how many drones it's destroyed once the shooting actually started. That's not a reason to dismiss the deployment. It's just an honest acknowledgement of where the actual evidence currently stands, separate from the excitement that naturally surrounds any weapon making its combat debut. Let's talk about the scale of the threat this laser is up against, because that's what makes a cheap interception method matter so much. Reporting from Defense News, citing regional defense sources, indicates that Gulf states intercepted more than 755 drones and 172 ballistic missiles in the opening stretch of the war alone. That is an overwhelming volume of incoming threats, and every one of those interceptions, if handled with traditional missile defense, carries that same brutal cost imbalance we just talked about. If even a meaningful slice of that volume could eventually be handled by low-cost lasers instead of multi-million-dollar interceptors, the financial relief for American and Allied forces could be enormous. There's also a much bigger buildup happening around this laser, and Helios isn't operating alone. In late April 2026, the aircraft carrier USS George H.W. Bush arrived in the Middle East, joining the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald R. Ford. For the first time since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, 3 American aircraft carriers were operating simultaneously in the region, according to U.S. Central Command, backed by more than 200 aircraft and roughly 15,000 sailors and Marines. And here's a detail that didn't get nearly enough attention. The George H.W. Bush didn't just show up with jets. It arrived carrying a containerized laser weapon system of its own called Locust, built to give the Navy a portable, roll-on, roll-off directed energy capability that doesn't require the years of permanent shipboard integration that Helios needed on the Preble. According to the company behind it, the whole point of a containerized laser is that it can be rolled onto almost any ship and made operational quickly, without expensive structural modifications, which tells you the Navy isn't just testing one laser on one ship anymore. It's actively trying to figure out how to put directed energy weapons on far more of the fleet fast. Now, a genuinely important limitation, because no honest breakdown of this technology should pretend it's some kind of magic, unstoppable solution. According to detailed reporting from the War Zone, which examined Helios testing in depth, real questions remain about how the system performs under sustained combat conditions. Lasers can only engage one target at a time. Their effectiveness drops off with distance. They're affected by weather, by smoke, and by dust in the air, all common conditions in a Middle Eastern combat environment. Shipboard laser systems also have to deal with saltwater exposure, rough seas, and demanding cooling requirements just to keep functioning reliably over long deployments. So, while a controlled test destroying 4 drones is genuinely impressive, real combat, especially against a coordinated swarm of drones attacking simultaneously from multiple directions, is a considerably harder technical challenge than anything demonstrated in testing so far. That's also part of why, even now, the Navy still classifies Helios as what's called a non-program of record research and development asset in its own budget documents. In plain terms, the Navy itself still treats this as an experimental system, not a fully established, mass-produced piece of standard naval equipment, even while it's been used in an actual shooting war. But here's what's genuinely notable, and why this deployment carries real weight regardless of that experimental label. According to reporting from the War Zone, members of Congress have been pushing the Navy to develop a fully containerized version of Helios itself, a more modular, more easily transportable design that could go on a much wider range of ships instead of requiring the kind of dedicated, permanent integration currently limited, but that ceasefire has proven fragile. In early July, Iran struck several commercial vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz, and the United States responded with renewed airstrikes. U.S. presidents declared the ceasefire over, and both sides have since traded further rounds of attacks, with Iran again threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz to shipping. As of the most recent reporting, negotiations are ongoing, but the underlying tension that started this war in the first place, Iran's drone and missile arsenal and the enormous cost of shooting it down, hasn't gone away. If anything, the renewed fighting means the exact economic problem Helios was built to solve could be tested all over again. So where does this actually leave things? Helios remains the only fully integrated high-energy laser in the fleet, still aboard the USS Preble, with a second containerized laser system now aboard the USS George H.W. Bush. Reports suggest Helios has been used against Iranian drones in real combat, though officially confirmed, kill numbers still aren't public. Congress and Navy leadership are actively pushing to expand this technology into a more mobile, more widely deployable format, funding that expansion even as the broader conflict with Iran flares back up. And the fundamental economic problem that made this weapon necessary in the first place, $20,000 drones forcing multi-million-dollar interception responses, is just as real today as it was when this war started. Let's zoom out, because the implications here go well past this one war. The broader significance of Helios isn't really about whether it single-handedly changes the outcome of the conflict with Iran. It's about whether this war ends up being the real-world proving ground that decides whether directed energy weapons become the next major shift in how modern militaries handle air defense generally. Cheap, mass-produced drones have become a central weapon in modern warfare, not just here, but in Ukraine, in the Red Sea, and in plenty of other flashpoints around the world. Any military that can reliably solve the basic problem of cheaply countering cheap drones gains an enormous strategic and financial edge in virtually any future conflict involving this kind of asymmetric drone warfare. Which is exactly why this weapon, quiet, mostly invisible, and still officially classified as experimental, has become one of the most closely watched pieces of technology in this entire conflict. If this raised as many questions for you as it did for me putting it together, drop a comment and let me know what you think this laser actually means for the future of modern warfare. Do you think directed energy weapons like Helios are genuinely on track to become standard equipment across the fleet? Or do the real-world limitations, range, single target engagement, weather, mean this technology still has a long way to go? I read every comment, and I want your honest take. If you found this breakdown valuable, share it with someone who needs to understand how much the economics of modern warfare are quietly shifting right now. Subscribe so you don't miss the next update the moment new developments come out of this conflict. Because based on everything we just covered, this story is far from finished. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.